Hello and welcome to Tattered Cover on a Saturday. Thank you for joining us virtually from all over the world, maybe, because we have an international writer here with us tonight or today. My name is Adam. I am the director of events with Tattered Cover. If you don't know, Tattered Cover is the largest independent bookstore in Colorado and one of the largest in the country. And we have been around for 50 years. So thanks to readers like you out there and writers like our guests tonight for supporting us to keep us around for half a century. Before I introduce tonight's writer, please know that if you need closed captioning, there is a black bar at the bottom of your screen on YouTube that'll say CC, and that is your closed captioning. If you want it or need it, you can turn it on or off at any time. Before we go any further, once again, please check out tattercover.com/events, where you can find more events. We have another international writer on Tuesday, so we're back-to-back international on Tattered Cover. We have Giles Milton, who wrote a book about the Cold War, which you can see on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. Today's guest is the author of Where the Truth Lies. Her name is Anna Bailey. She was born in Bristol in 1995 and spent her childhood in Gloucestershire. She studied creative writing at Bath Spa University and wanted to become a journalist, but ended up moving to Colorado, where we are, to become a Starbucks barista instead. In 2018, she returned to the UK, where she enrolled in the Curtis Brown Creative Novel Writing course and wrote her first novel, inspired by her experience in living in small-town America. Please give a virtual round of applause for Anna Bailey. Anna, please rejoin us and enter the room. Hi there.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. I am really excited. I know you have been in Colorado. You have been to Tattered Cover. So thank you for doing this all the way from across the pond. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. How are you?
I am doing a-okay. You know, it's a Saturday. It's beautiful outside. And since you've been in Colorado, you understand what the summers could look like. But we're not here to talk about the weather, even though I would love to, because I'm a boring man. But we're here for Where the Truth Lies. Tell readers a little bit about it for those who may not know.
So, Where the Truth Lies is my debut novel, and it's really about, it's the story of a girl who goes missing in a small rural town in the Rocky Mountains. And even though it is a story about a missing girl, it's also really a story about the town where she lives, this very oppressive and claustrophobic place that's very cut off from the rest of the world. And one night she disappears from a party in the woods,
Mm.
and her best friend Emma can't accept that she's gone and doesn't believe the police when they say that she's just run away. So the rest of the book really follows Emma's increasingly desperate search to try and find this friend that she loves so much. And in the process, she kind of turns up all of the town's secrets, this violence and prejudice and the very controlling presence of religion. And in the end, nobody is really left unscathed by this investigation.
Mhm. And I know you have a reading for us that we'll have you read first so people could hear and get a sense of the book, and then I'll come back on and ask some questions. What part are you going to be reading for us today?
So I am going to be reading just the very end of the first chapter. So there's been this party in the woods that all the local kids have kind of gone to at this place called the Toll Bones, which is this big stone circle in the forest. And Emma has just said goodbye to Abigail, thinking that she's going to see her again tomorrow. And I was just explaining before we came on that I actually don't have a copy of my book with me because I am up in the mountains right now. And I'm going to be reading this off my screen. So I'm sorry if this looks really, really intense, like I'm staring at you guys, but I promise I'm just looking at my reading.
Take it away.
The bonfire has been tamped down, and now the blackened circle of its remains looks like somewhere a UFO might have come in to land. The tall bones are silent silhouettes against a night sky silvered with moonlight. The partygoers have scattered back down the road towards Jerry Maddox's trailer park, or crammed into their friends' cars and driven home through the woods, and so there is no one around to hear the gun when it goes off. Tomorrow is Sunday, and the Blake family cannot yet imagine that they will sit in their usual lonely row of fold-up chairs at church without Abigail beside them. Tomorrow is Sunday, and Emma is supposed to bleach Abigail's hair for her because she is tired of being ginger at school, even though she knows her parents will say she looks cheap. Tomorrow is Sunday, and Emma lies awake, listening to the coyotes wail and wishes that she were one of them. In the morning, she will check her phone, void of any reassurance from Abigail that she made it safely home. Her eyes will return to that box of bleach sitting unopened on the dresser, and somehow she will know. By the end of the week, Abigail's face will grin emptily from 100 flyers tacked to telephone poles and church billboards flapping in the Rocky Mountain breeze. Samuel Blake will go out into the forest with the police department, crying his daughter's name into the trees. Her brother Noah will scrub the stains on his jeans until his fingers are raw, and Emma will hide the box of bleach under her bed. Her mother, Dolly, sucking on her cigarettes, will knead the flaky flesh of her scalp and stare at the big cross hiding the hole in the wall, afraid that now all the wrong things will come out.
Thank you so much. I love like small town stories. I feel like we all do right now, and yours really captured like the mountains, and that's super important. Did you start writing this book when you were stateside in Colorado, or did it really come after the fact?
I think it was kind of a mix. Like when I was living in the Rockies, I really, really wanted to write something set there because it was just such an inspirational place. And as you know, like I found that I was taking a lot of notes when I was living there about like the kind of animals I was seeing, the weather that I had, like how long a storm would last, and you know, the way that the place made me feel on different days in different climates, and sort of weird experiences that I would have there. And I had this huge folder of notes on my phone. And so when I came back to the UK and I was writing the book, I had all of this stuff to go off. And so it kind of felt like the novel was kind of, the kind of inception of it was in Colorado, but I didn't really start writing it until I moved back to the UK.
And being a writer from the UK, did agents and publishers, were they like, why are you writing about America? Like, was there that like tension there?
It was actually, it was okay. When I first went to meet my agent in London, she had been expecting the whole time that I was American. So that was quite interesting. And actually my agent is deaf, so she couldn't hear that I had an English accent. So I was telling her that I am English, and that was, I get that quite a lot from people in the UK who assumed that I was American writing about America, and I guess I take that as a compliment. I hope that it means that it was an authentic portrayal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it completely was. That's what was so amazing. Did you, this is a silly question, because obviously when we get the books in America, it's all Americanized, all the spellings. Did you write in like your British spelling, the O's, the R's, or did you write as an American?
Really funny question, because I wrote it all in American English. And then my UK publishers changed it back. And then my American publishers changed it back again. And I was like, you could have just kept what I wrote before. But definitely my American editor did help me a lot with, I mean, I am British, and there were definitely things that I wrote that were like real Britishisms in there. So she was very good at kind of correcting a lot of that stuff.
Definitely. And with this type of story, I guess you mentioned you have notes about the settings and the animals and the storms. What really came first when you discovered you were going to write this? Did you have a plot in mind, the characters? Was it just the setting?
I mean, the setting was such a huge influence for me because it was really the reason that I was living in Colorado. Like I visited and I just fell in love with the Rockies so much. And it was like nowhere that I had been before. This really like, you know, feeling so cut off from everywhere, but surrounded by this really like visceral beauty of this really, you know, these huge mountains and these massive forests. And And I loved the idea that this was a place where you could get lost and people wouldn't find you. And that was really something going on in my head. And I was thinking that would make such a good basis for a book, for a mystery. And I love small towns as a setting. I think they also are such a great setting for mystery novels because you have this climate where everybody wants to know everything about everyone, but then you're trying to keep yourself private. And so you have this kind of constant battle between secrecy and exposure. And I think that makes such a great like climate of tension for a mystery.
Was it always a mystery, then you knew you wanted to write one?
Actually, that is also a good question because I was just so taken with the idea of writing something about Colorado, and I originally was kind of just writing about this family who kind of ended up being the main family in this novel, the Blake family, whose daughter goes missing. I was just very interested in writing about the kind of people that would live in this environment, the kind of the kind of hardships that they would face, the kind of attitudes that that would create, like living somewhere really harsh in the mountains, that the kind of people that would make. And I remember reading Celeste Ng's Everything I Never Told You and thinking I loved the way that she was able to write about a family and about family troubles and family dynamics, but also with this mystery like woven into it of a dead girl, and that kept you turning the pages. And so I kind of wanted to marry these two ideas together, and hopefully it worked.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I think in like the copy of the book, you know, the publicity copy, it mentions perfect for fans of Celeste Ng. And as I was reading this, I actually love Everything I Never Told You more than Little Fires Everywhere. And I feel like most people love Little
Yeah.
Fires Everywhere. But if you're out there listening, please read Everything I Never Told You after you read Anna's book here. But I got that vibe where it's like, yes, there's a mystery, but it's really about these people. And I feel like most people who read mysteries are just trying to solve the mystery. But
Mm,
what I'm looking for is like the people, like how are they affected? And you really like master that, and like and yes, there's a mystery, but it's like the characters blew me away.
thank you.
Did you, because you wanted to write about the family and then it kind of became more of a mystery with these characters built in, did any of the characters change in ways that really surprised you as you were writing it?
Oh yeah, definitely. So there's a character, Hunter Maddox, who his if you haven't read it, he's kind of the local jock, and his father is, I guess, what passes for rich in this very small town. Like he owns the local trailer park and the local lumber mill, and Hunter is kind of spoiled and not super likable to start with. And originally I wrote him as being much more of an antagonist. But as the story went on, I was thinking, you know, like why would somebody be like this in the first place? Like what kind of background must he come from, and what kind of tensions in his family must exist for him to be so unpleasant? And I began to feel really sorry for him as I was writing it, and that, you know, trying to explore this relationship that he would have with his father and his parents, and how sort of lonely he felt. And eventually I felt that I liked him a lot more, and he became much more of a protagonist in the story and is now kind of one of the main characters. So
Mhm.
he was fun. He's definitely one of my favorites.
And something I'm always interested with books that have a mystery is the pace. Was that easy for you to figure out like how much to reveal, how soon, while diving into these characters' lives? Like how was, because pace is important in like a story that is like this. How
Mhm.
was that for you?
I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot actually now that I'm writing my second novel. I feel like with this one it all kind of flowed quite naturally, and obviously like there was a lot of editing afterwards, but I felt like the story kind of, I knew exactly where it was going, and I felt pretty confident just kind of letting it tell itself with the first draft of writing it. And now that I've been really struggling a lot more with my second novel, writing it in lockdown, I've been thinking about pace a lot and thinking like, oh my God, this is actually really hard. Like that was a real fluke the first time around. I was very lucky to find it so simple.
And I should have asked this earlier, but did you ever come back to Colorado after you started officially writing it, or was everything from memory in your notes?
Oh yeah, everything was from memory. Yeah, it was. Man, those plane tickets were expensive. Yeah, I
Oh
wasn't.
yeah, trust me,
I haven't
yes.
been. I haven't been back to the States actually since 2018. But I would love to when eventually the world is back to normal again.
Exactly. Um, Growing up, did you read a lot of mysteries? Like, was that your genre, or was that your genre growing up?
I guess yes and no. Like we didn't really have a. If my mum's watching this, I feel like she's going to shake her head about this, but I feel like we didn't really have a lot of mystery fiction at home. I read a lot of short stories generally. That's the kind of thing that I like. I'm a big fan of Alice Munro and Elizabeth Strout. But I, growing up, I guess I watched a lot of mysteries on TV. But this was all, I think, was all really stuff that was written by guys and featured a male detective, and the women in it were just kind of there to like be killed off brutally and or be like a sad ex-wife that they don't speak to. And so I really kind of, I was very keen to, when I kind of decided that this was going to be a mystery novel, a crime novel, that I wanted it to be quite female oriented. And actually I do think there's probably still more male characters in it than there are female characters, but it is a story about a missing girl being searched for by another girl, and I think that was important for me to have a female oriented story.
Did you read a lot of mystery and crime novels as you prepare to write this? Like, did they come in later in life then, or do you still not really read too much of them?
I don't really read a lot. I was actually talking to another author about this recently, and we were both saying we don't read a lot of crime, and we felt kind of bad for that, especially because we were at a crime writing festival at the time. There were all these authors, and I was like, who are they? But no, I'm kidding. I knew who they were.
No, but and that makes sense though, because like really, like when I read the book, it is more like Elizabeth Strout. You mentioned that's small town America. Like that makes sense for like what interested me most about the book was the small town. The mystery was great and everything, but I just love like the nuances of a small town and small town characters.
You can't beat it. It's such a great setting for any story, I think. And what I really love about Elizabeth Strout is the way that she'll take a small town setting and show you every character in that. And I really wanted to try and do something like that with this novel, Where the Truth Lies, because even the background characters in it, I wanted them to feel like they were fully fleshed out people, and that even if you don't really see a lot of them in the novel, they're still there existing and having their own story.
Mm-hmm. And Where the Truth Lies as a title is genius. Was that always your working title, or did that come through like the editing and writing process?
That's actually, so my book has a different title in the UK,
Oh,
and actually a title that my publishers chose in the States, but I really like it. It's great.
what is the? I do not know. I'm sorry. What's the UK title?
Oh no, it's okay. The title in the UK is Tall Bones.
Hmm. Very mysterious. Yeah, Where the Truth Lies. It's just so like Where the Truth Lies. It's I don't know. I love it. So
No, I do as well. It's a really great title. I think yeah, I know a lot of UK books end up with different titles in the US, and I think it's good to get a good one. I know a lot of UK authors will talk about that, and I feel lucky I ended up with a good title. So.
It is so interesting because I've talked to there's this writer Ellie Eaton who she grew up in the UK, moved to Los Angeles, and has lived there for 10 years. And she wrote a book about like a school in the UK, like her experience. So it's like Mean Girls set in the UK. And we were just talking about like just how different it is because American, like the publishing industry, the marketing industry is so different from the UK. Did you really feel like you were in like two separate worlds trying to navigate these, or did it blend pretty easily for you, like on the business side?
Yeah, no, a little. It's really, really different. And I'm totally new to the whole thing. So
Yeah.
was it was really cool actually just like learning how the publishing industry works in different places. But it is definitely um it definitely feels, gosh, what's a good way of putting that? I mean this positively, but it feels very like business-like in the US.
Hmm.
And I really do mean that positively. Like it's really great to know people are out there like working so hard pushing your book. And obviously they are in the UK too. It's just like the vibe of it is just really different. I don't know how to explain that.
No, I mean, I completely understand that. I always talk about writing is the art and publishing is a business. Like it is
Hmm.
interesting having those two. And yes, and you mentioned, and I don't want to dive too deep into it because I know superstitions, but you're writing your second book. Is it also a mystery? Is it also set in America? What little things can you tell us about it without
It's
revealing
all
too
of
much?
those things. It is another mystery set in small town America. And it is due at the end of this month, hence why I have run away to the mountains to try and finish it. Um, it's set in the 1970s, and
Mhm.
it's about a murder of a wealthy couple and how all of their children kind of end up as suspects in the murder.
Awesome. And I am hooked already, which is what like a mystery, like that pitch is always my favorite. Like, what is the one line that you could hook me on? And that was it. I'll turn to some audience questions. There's just a few, and but they're very good. One is from Kelly, and it's a writing question. I love writing questions. It is you ran away to the mountains. So I'm editing the question as I'm asking it. You ran away to the mountains. What's your normal writing pattern like? Do you have strict schedule? Do you just write whenever you can? What's your writing day look like?
I my writing is so, it's gonna sound so pretentious. Writing is really mercurial, so I think that like I try, and when I've got time, it's like, oh, I write when I'm feeling in the mood for it. But like over the last few months, like my deadline's been getting closer and closer. So it's like I get up and I sit down and make myself write. And then I look at it the next day and it's all rubbish and I have to get rid of it. But like it's, I think if you're going to do it as a job, you have to treat it like any job and show up for it every day.
Mhm.
So I tend to just, yeah, I try and write every day, and then I delete all of it the next day.
For sure. And there's a question from Linda, and it's about, so she says, you mentioned how the first novel just came out very easily, but the second novel, it's like feels more like work a little bit. What's your plotting like? How far in advance do you have sticky notes? What's that look like?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've got yeah, our whole apartment has like really brilliant high ceilings. So like the wall is just like covered in plot notes for yeah, for this new novel. And I think I think it's a different process. I did do that with Tall Bones as well, but it felt like with Where the Truth Lies, sorry. Um, that I did that as well with that, but that was kind of like I wrote maybe sort of like the first 1500 words and was kind of like, okay, I have an idea of where I'm going. Like I have an idea of the kind of setting that I'm in, the kind of characters that I've got. And so I did this massive plan with notes of like, this is the story I'm going to write. And it changed a lot as I was going through it, but it really helped to have that structure for me to kind of work with and to edit as I was going along. Whereas with this one, it's sort of more like I come up with a few ideas for like, this is going to happen in maybe like 10 chapters time, so I'll work towards that, and then try and go back over it and see what needs work, and then plot a few chapters ahead of that. And so it's been a different process, but I think with a first novel you kind of have your whole life to plan a first novel, and um, then you get a year or a couple of years to write the next one, and that's amazing. But it's also like, oh, I haven't really thought through in the same way. Like I haven't gotten to know these characters, I haven't gotten to know this place in the same way. So yeah, it's a really interesting process. It's certainly a really great learning process for me.
Definitely. And um, Sarah asks, you don't read a lot of crime or watch, or you watch, or let me reread that. You don't read a lot of crime other than those short stories. Who else has inspired you recently? What's inspiring you?
Oh, it's a good question. Um, I've been reading a lot of Proust actually, because that one of my favorite parts of the job is that I get sent so many arcs to
Hmm.
read. And I recently finished David Thewlis's new book, Shooting Martha, which I don't know if that's out in the US yet, but it's out here in the UK, and it's really really good. He wrote a very like Hitchcockian kind of mystery,
Mm,
um, very much in the style of like Vertigo, and that was absolutely brilliant. I love that.
definitely. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for joining us while you're in the mountains trying to work, and then you came on the call for us all the way here in America. And we were talking before how like uh, animals, just my cat is like pushing my laptop as we speak. Um, where can we find you on the internet for people who want to find you and follow you?
So I'm mostly on Instagram at Anna Bailey Writes, but I am also on Twitter at Anna F Bailey.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure to follow you, and this YouTube video will be live for people. The cat.
Hi. Oh my gosh.
This YouTube video will be live, and we'll be sure to send it over Instagram and Twitter. So if you enjoyed Where the Truth Lies, which is the title here in America, for those of you who are watching maybe from abroad, this will be available to stream and share so more people can learn about Anna Bailey's work. Anna, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us on a
you.
Saturday when you're on vacation with family. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great one.
And you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I want to keep that around